So a record number of Britain's worst shoplifters offenders are avoiding jail. I'm going to read into this story more from the Telegraph, you guys. So it says that nearly 6 in 10 profligate thieves spared prison last year, including one woman with 315 previous convictions. Now, I know many people are not fans of the Telegraph, and neither am I, but I wanted to verify if these numbers are pretty accurate here. So before I read into this, I actually want to read what I asked Grok, artificial intelligence bot. I wanted to verify if there were other stories and analysis with regards to whether how accurate this story is, and I just want to read exactly what it said. So it said, what Grok said. So there is evidence that a record number of Britain's high-volume shoplifting offenders are avoiding jail. The article referenced in the context of rising shoplifting offences aligns with statements from Katie Bowl, the national lead for shoplifting at the Association of Police and Crimes Commissioner. She highlighted the issue of repeated offences not facing imprisonment due to a lack of prison spaces, describing it as madness that offenders can be arrested multiple times before facing jail time. She noted that criminal justice system's inability to provide effective deterrents, such as prison sentences, is exacerbated by logistical constraints, including overcrowding prisons. This has led to a situation where many prolific shoplifters face alternative measures or no significant punishment. Despite shoplifters' offences reaching record highs, with over 500,000 cases recorded in 2024, and 20% increase from 2023. Additionally, the Times analysis, as cited in another source, supports this claim by suggesting that police have almost entirely ceased punishing shoplifters, even as shoplifting offences soar to record levels. These reports indicate that the combination of rising shoplifters incidents and a strained criminal justice system has resulted in fewer custodial sentences for even the most prolific offenders. However, specific data on the exact number of offenders avoiding jail is not detailed in provided reference. So while the trend is supported, precise figures will require further investigation, is what it said. And it's Grok outlines sources that it uses when I give it questions relating to certain articles. So yes, this unfortunately is the case here, and it is a very frustrating one. So I suppose before we even read into it, what do we do about this? What do we do when we have record number of shoplifters, and some of them have to be repeated offenders before they even face jail time, and we have an overcrowded prison systems where we have to prioritise much more worse criminals? So what do you do in this situation? That is the question. And my answer right now is I'm not sure what to do right now, because we have an overcrowding prison system. I mean, it's not like we can send them abroad, and that would just be in breach of their human rights, in the same, it being in breach of their human rights. We need to do something here, especially ones who are doing it on multiple occasions. They need to be signed, because it's not fair on retailers. No matter how many times they call the police, no matter how many times they're arrested, they're just going to keep coming back because they're not facing jail time. And what they're getting, massive fines. Fines are obviously not doing it. There needs to be something in place. If we can't provide, if we can't stop them from doing the shoplifting, they're just going to continue to do it and continue to cause problems. So I can't fully blame Labour for this, because the Conservatives are the ones who left the prison system in the crisis that it's in over the last 14 years, and people have to remember that. Even in the run up to the general election, and I've said this before, as we were running up to the general election, I remember in the run up to the general election, they had to make emergency measures because the prisons were about to be overcrowded. That's how crazy it was. So most chronic shoplifters and thieves are walking free than ever before. Analysis by the Telegraph has revealed nearly 6 in 10 profitably thieves defied as having at least 15 previous convictions, avoiding prison last year, the highest proportion since the Ministry of Justice records began more than a decade ago. So just 41.3% receive a custodial sentence, down from 46.4% the previous year. So among those spared jail was one offender with 315 previous convictions who was caught stealing a $495 designer handbag from Fenwick in Newcastle, and a woman who helped steal $145,000 worth of goods in shopping trolleys from Tesco's. Retailers estimate that up to 70% of the thefts from their stores is carried out by just 10% of offenders. Shoplifting is estimated to have cost retailers £2 billion last year, adding the equivalent of £133 to every household shopping bill. The disclosure comes a day after Katie Bourne, the police senior chief, warned that there is no point in arresting shoplifters if the courts keep setting them free without preventing offenders from carrying out further crimes. She added that this is madness of how many times thieves have to be arrested before they end up behind bars. And here it is. This is prolific offenders defined as someone with at least 15 previous convictions. Fewer public offenders caught on theft charges are being jailed. Proportion of prolific offenders who receive immediate custody. So obviously you can see the number was going up between 2015, pretty much from 2015 to 2020, and obviously it dipped during the pandemic. Risen right, really high by 2022, 2023, and then from 2024 it is dipped off a cliff there. So Keir Starmer has made tackling shoplifting a priority for his government, pledging to introduce laws that require police to investigate even the goods stolen are worth under £200. However, Shabina Mahmood, the Justice Secretary, is considering recommendations backing the greater use of community punishment rather than jail for less serious offences, which will include theft and shoplifting. Crime experts and former police officers blame overcrowding prisons and court delays for the decline in custodial sentence for prolific offenders. David McKelly, a former Scotland Yard detective whose security firm provides bobbies to protect West End retailers and shoplifters, said, "Since the government's early release scheme, we have seen an increase in the prolific offenders returning to commit crime. The message currently sent out by the criminal justice system is that the risk of going to prison are negligible, and so the regulators are having a field day." And the thing is, as well, to add to this, the criminals know that the prisons are full. So when they hear it, there's like, well, there's a good chance we'll probably not end up going there because they're overcrowded as it is. So they can take they know they can be willing to take the risk of not having to go to prison as well. So that adds on top of them already things for them. Rory Jodigan, a former number 10 advisor and the founder of the Public Safety Foundation, said, "These figures reveal the more lenient approaches being taken by courts in response to the repeated failure to expand prison capacity. Prolific thieves rarely stop offending unless incapacitated, and the best incapacitated we have currently is jail. Shopkeepers and retail workers across the country will be depressed to see more prolific thieves avoiding prison at a time when their stores are being hit by surging theft and embroiled criminals." In the 12 months to September last year, customer theft reported by UK retailers rose by 3.7 million to 20.4 million. In the last 12 months, that's really bad. So Keir is hoping to reverse the trend with his policing and crimes bill, which will reverse so-called shoplifters charter introduced in 2014, under which theft of goods under £200 is considered a low value as a summary offensive. It carries a maximum prison term of just 6 months, whereas theft of goods is worth more than £200 merits up to 7 years in jail. Theft, including shoplifting, is more likely to be a repeat offence than any other crime. MOJ data shows that last year, over half, 55.8% of convicted thieves had at least 15 convictions compared to 39.1% of the robbery and 29.1% for public order. And so these are those charged with theft offences are by far most likely to have a long criminal history. Probation of adults charged with different offences with 15 or more previous convictions or cautions there. So you can see in terms of numbers there, this is all from the Ministry of Justice, 55.8% for theft offences, 39% for robbery, 29% for public order offences, possession of weapons 24%, serious criminal damage and arson 24%, summary offences including motoring 23%, malicious crimes against society 22.5%, violence against the person 21%, drug offences 19%, fraud offences 18%, summary monitoring offences 9.4%, and sexual offences 9.2% there. The number of prolific offenders have been rising post-COVID to the highest level since 2019. Of the 83,751 adult prolific offenders prosecuted for all types of crime in 2024, 54,342 were spared jail, amounting to 64.4%, the highest proportion for a decade and up by nearly a fifth, 19.5% on the year before. Meanwhile, the number of offenders with more than 75 previous convictions or cautions jumped by more than a quarter between 2023 and 2024 to 3,356, reversing years of decline prior to the pandemic. More than half, 54%, of those with more than 75 convictions avoided jail. Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Secretary, said, "It's no surprise shoplifting is at a record levels when there is no consequences for these scumbags. These prolific offenders need to be locked up so we can protect the public and cut crime rates." But Labour are doing precisely the opposite. They're ending short-term sentencing for shoplifters and letting those prisoners out early. Labour's handling of the crisis has recently come under fire. Earlier this month, Downing Street said the Prime Minister would not call shoplifters scumbags after police ministers told a shopkeeper using the term that could be offensive. There are cases where some people are shoplifting because they absolutely have nothing as well. But the thing is that in this situation here, Labour, if I was in Labour's position, I would actually be doing the same thing. Because at the end of the day, if the prisons are overcrowded, the criminal justice system breaks. It breaks, which means that crime can run rampant with no consequences whatsoever. The most serious of criminals will not face prison time. And in the situation that they're in, they had to do this to short spaces because the previous government, the Conservatives, never built enough prisons. They never built enough places. And that's the actual reality of that we are in. Dame Diana Johnson, the police minister, was subsequently criticised for telling shopkeepers not to place high-value items close to store entrances in an attempt to stop shoplifters. This doesn't work. Most stores don't do that anyway. Some still do, but it's not going to stop people walking in and still doing it. MOJ spokesperson said the government is delivering the largest expansion of prison places since the Victorian era, with 2,500 new spaces already delivered and 14,000 on track for delivery by 2031. Independent judges decide sentences and they can impose a range of tough requirements, including curfews, tags, and exclusion zones. Offenders who break these requirements can be sent to prison. Well, right now it's not very good, and we're talking specifically about shoplifters here, specifically. And yes, of course, there are much more serious crimes that people need to face prison time for. And I absolutely agree with that. I'm not dismissing that. But what good is a criminal justice system if people who are consistently shoplifting, not facing any prison time whatsoever? What are we doing here? And I think the government should look at some kind of emergency prisons. They should look at some places where they could possibly hold them in. Some other emergency. They should look at emergency places that they could put them in. I don't want to put them on the. They need to increase capacity now while they're still building prisons. They need to take emergency measures to increase capacity to show not just shoplifters but other criminal offences that you will face the law, that you will face prison time. And if we are struggling to have the prisons, then we need to make emergency accommodation for criminals to show that we're tough. That's what we needs to be done here. But where and how, that's a difficult question. But what do you guys honestly think? What do you guys make about the record number of shoplifters here? What do you guys make of Grok's analysis on it as well? And the Telegraph's piece? Let me know your thoughts and more down in the comment section below. If you found this video interesting and informative, please hit that like button, share it across social media, subscribe if you haven't already. Do check out Rumble and Patreon for exclusive content. And if you want to financially support me and the work that I do here, you could become a YouTube member for as little as 99p. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.